Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from around the world. Welcome and thank you. Thank you for joining us all month long as we have celebrated students and classrooms in school communities around the world who use technology for good. And I am so excited about this is our second live session today. We were on at 5 a.m. Representing Sudan, and now 12 hours later, talk about the beauty of going global. We are live again, representing both Australia and the United States in this incredible partnership and collaboration with MEG Languages. And really an incredible focus. I know that later, while we're going live, we've got some students that will be joining us as well around design thinking and the SDGs, and really the student at the center, which is so exactly what we want to do for our celebrations, where we have that intergenerational learning, where we're learning with students alongside that side by side. So Lottie, I just want to say a shout out to Brett, because Brett made this connection. But the connection also, without really knowing it, also goes back to Steve Sostak. So all month long, we have wanted to, honor our friend and colleague and really kind of look at this as a call to action. And so to have you involved is really extra special. So I'm going to go in the background. And anybody that's going to be joining us live, please be active in the comments. I will be managing that, but I'd love for you to introduce yourself and your team.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, Zhao Shang Hao, good morning, everybody. I'm going to share my screen, and I just have to say that this platform is new to me. So please be patient with me as I learn. And if there's a moment where we just need to take a breath, then please let's do that together. My name is Lottie Dowling, and I am from MEG Languages. And I'd love for my colleagues to also introduce themselves. Today we're going to be talking about supporting students to take action through design thinking. Can we all see that? Yes, amazing. Awesome. So supporting students to take action through design thinking, we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. First of all, we're going to talk about what design thinking is and how we use it to support the structure of student action programs at MEG. And we know lots of people do this work through different ways. And then we're really lucky. We've got some students who we've been working with, my colleagues Emily and Steph, who will introduce them in the second half. And they're going to talk about their project. And so you get to hear from that student voice and their amazing work and their amazing project as well. I'm Lottie. I'm one of the team members at MEG Languages and the facilitators of what we call our Global Citizenship Student Ambassador Program. It's a one-year program, and we'll talk a little bit more about how we structure that later. So it's probably similar to what educators are doing in their schools, because it's across a year. But, we know that these things look different in all contexts. And before I continue, I just would really like to acknowledge that I'm standing on the lands of the Wurundjeri and Burrung peoples of the Eastern Kulin Nation, and acknowledge that their lands were unceded, as many of the lands that we stand on today are, and acknowledge the wisdom that they bring to our societies, past, present, and emerging with their elders. Over to the rest of my team.
Yeah, sure. I'll go next. My name is Emily Apuzzo Hopkins, and I'm joining you all from Nashville, Tennessee. Happens to be the indigenous lands of the Cherokee people, the Yuki people, as well as the Shawnee, and a number of others who have crossed over these lands over the millennia. But those are the key ones here in the Middle Tennessee area. I'm very excited to be joining my colleagues. This has been a very exciting year for us with the Student Ambassador Program. I'm even more excited to welcome the Spectrum students and my friend Mary Beth Kunat from Spectrum Progressive today. So we're very excited for all of you to meet them and see what they've been working on this year.
All right, and I am Steph Packars. I'm coming to you from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I would also like to acknowledge the tribe, the Miami Nation of Indians, the Kakaskia tribe, and the Kickapoo tribes, whose lands, I am coming to you from now.
Thanks, Steph and Emily. And if you are tuning in and you want to say hi in any language that you speak, or you'd like to acknowledge the Indigenous lands, say hi in the comments, say hi in the chat. I know we've got a Jamboard that we're going to be sharing a bit later, so look out for that in the chat as well. We don't need that right now. I think before we get started, we just wanted to talk a little bit about the context for student action, and you might use this term in different ways. So you might be talking about civic engagement or service learning through the IB lens. But one of the things that we know about our world right now is that we live in a very globalized world, and we live in a world that very much is under pressure in a lot of different ways. Globalization brings many benefits to us. Look at the food and things that we can eat and drink, and things we can access, the things we can watch. We get lots of different perspectives, but unfortunately it is also bringing a lot of challenges to our planet. So some of these challenges that we're seeing around us, and our young people more importantly are seeing around us, is we're seeing cities and places in the world with mass pollution, and this is very much in the last 100 years, obviously, since we've industrialized. We're seeing mass extinction of species, and we'll talk a bit more later about that with our student project. We're seeing polarization. People who work in the space have talked about the fact that we are becoming far more left and far more right, and that dialogue is missing, and that is leading to some polarization of thoughts, and it's making conversations harder. And because of that, we're also seeing mass movements rising from the people, things like the Black Lives Matter movement. Of course, we can't talk about education without talking about technology, and probably AI right now. It's the thing on everyone's lips, but it's impacting every part of our society, not just education. We're seeing global conflicts, and obviously we have a global conflict in Europe for the first time in many decades, but we also have many regional conflicts that have been going for many decades sometimes across our planet as well. And of course, we are coming out of the tail end, hopefully, of the pandemic. So that's had a huge implication for all parts of our society. We also just want to acknowledge that, here at Meg Languages, we really focus on global citizenship and global competence. And so this is one of the forces that we really think about in different parts of our programs. But in terms of student action, being an active, as we can sort of see down the bottom here with Fernando Rima's definition, having young people that can operate effectively across boundaries to address challenges that we've just looked at, but also see the opportunity, the good and the bad, is part of being a really engaged global citizen. So we just want to, when we talk about global citizenship, we're thinking about it through the lens of being an active and informed global citizen. And what does that sort of look like for us? Our one-year program, we'll talk a bit more about this later, because we're going to dig down into the layers of this. But really, just so everybody knows, what we do with our programs is at the beginning, I think in the US, of course, it's semesters, it's not terms. But because we're global, we use lots of terms here. We launch at the beginning of the year. We get the project set up, and students choose their own projects. And we'll talk a bit more about that and how they choose those. Then they design a solution to those projects. And again, that's design thinking. They're encouraged to explore that topic, explore lots of ideas. I know Steph's going to talk a bit more about later. And then they not only design the solution that they've come up with, it's their solution, but they implement it. So it's real world projects, real world implementation. And as we know, when we try and do anything in the real world problems come up as well. So we have great problem solving skills. Steph and Em, do you want to jump in on anything in there about that process quickly before I move on?
Well, I think the key is really the student voice piece of all of this. And it is sometimes tough as an adult to be the guide on the side, but that's really what the facilitation of this program is about letting the students take the lead and letting them see how things can possibly go wrong, because I think it's a really valuable real world project approach for them to experience.
Yeah, it's certainly a great practice in flexibility and learning to pivot.
And as I'll share later, sometimes when we face these challenges, some of our students find out that actually it uncovers other possibilities they haven't thought of, which has happened in a few of our projects. So this presentation is called Design Thinking. How do we use this for student action projects? So we just wanted to share this graphic with you because this is what we're going to be talking through today. And I'm sure everybody's familiar with this term, design thinking, may or may not use it. But essentially it is kind of, something that's become quite popular in education. And we have those sort of three different main stages. We first of all have the understand issue. So how do we understand a problem? How do we understand a situation? How do we understand a context? And we'll go through each of those. First of all, we empathize, and then we have to define what the issue is, and some questions we want to find the answers to. Explore, we look at how we can think of lots of solutions, and then we build our project. We build our solution, essentially. And then we produce, which is essentially putting it out into the world. So we test it out, we see how it goes, we make those tweaks, and then we implement it. Like, okay, yeah, we're happy with this. This is what we're going to implement. But of course, we're going to be constantly reviewing and evaluating even after we implement. So I'll get, we'll talk a little bit more about those stages in a moment. But some of the mindsets that we use for all of these different stages. Over to you, Em.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to just touch on each of these very briefly and talk about how these threads kind of weave throughout the design thinking process. And first, I'm going to start with that word courageous. And, I think it can be very difficult and challenging sometimes for young people to know where they fit in these conversations. And it's a very courageous step to step up, speak out, and be vulnerable in the taking action process. Also, the experimental aspect of this, failing is very normal. We've kind of addressed that. It's a part of the revision process. It's a part of figuring out what other solutions might exist in the process. Optimism, being optimistic. Optimism is hope. It's maintaining that thread of hope throughout the process and believing that things can be better, things can be improved upon. The equitable piece, it's a big thread throughout the project, especially in the conversations surrounding DEI. So a big part of that is equality versus equity and understanding the difference and understanding how the nuances exist within those. Above all, the last two that I'm going to mention, collaboration, empathy, being collaborative. I know when I was younger, hearing the term group work was sometimes a scary thing to hear, but this is truly a collaborative effort, and watching the students come together and recognizing each other's strengths and where they shine within the project is very exciting to see. And of course, the empathy piece, that empathizing with the project from the beginning, that's the why for students, and really understanding why they're doing it so it doesn't feel like a chore, like it actually feels like something you're deeply passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And of course, there's a whole range of other skills as well that kind of come into this, which we'll touch on as we go through. And every student develops, really differently, of course, too, depending on their project and what they choose.
Most definitely. Yeah. So Emily, I think you mentioned a why, which I think is a great transition to this piece here. We've got a Jamboard. I'm going to try to put it in the chat.
I might be able to get it for you, Steph.
Okay, great.
Maybe.
Thank you. I'll just jump over to that.
Yeah,
so
sure
hopefully
thing.
we'll be able to see that.
So the topic of our Jamboard, or the discussion, if you want to add it in the chat, that's totally fine too. But we're curious to know, what do you think students care about? What do you think are the issues that that they're motivated to tackle and engage with?
Thank you. Yeah, awesome. And what we can maybe do is jump back into this a bit later as well,
Mm-hmm.
and see what's popped up. But do you want to just explain how that sort of works? I have shared that on my screen. It's all right. I will just show that, and then we can maybe keep going. What do you think?
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah,
that sounds good.
sure. Here we go. So it looks like this. Hopefully we'll see it in a moment. Steph, do you want to just talk about how to use the stickies if people are?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Jamboard is just kind of like a collaborative space where people can share ideas. So there are sticky notes, blank sticky notes across the page that you'll see there. You can just grab one of those sticky notes, and if you double click, then you're able to add something to it. So for example, if students care about physical health, for example, you can type in your answer, click save, and it'll show up. Then you can kind of drag it to wherever you feel like is the best position on the page.
Awesome. And what are some of the things, Steph and you've noticed young people care about?
It's interesting because, we're working obviously with our student ambassadors. And then I know of an IB school that we work with through our language program. And some of the things that were really similar, whether it's climate or care for endangered species, also just equity within communities and all that. Those seem to be very popular themes and the things that have risen to the top in my experience so far.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think homelessness is a big topic, and also access to food, to healthy foods, to quality education. Lots of things along those lines have definitely come up.
Yeah, and I think it's something that it's worth educators asking their students, not just when it's like, hey, student action time, but all through the year. It's part of getting to know our students, and it's also part of being culturally responsive as well as really understanding the needs of our young people. So I'm going to share some of the answers to that question. And I just want to check, can you all see my screen?
Not yet.
You're not
it
yet?
unshared and then now
there we
it's
go.
coming
Perfect.
back.
Amazing. So this year, because we live in different parts of the world, we run the program at different times. So here down in Australia, what do young people care about was a question that we asked at the beginning of the program. And I just started the program this year with 40 schools. We kicked off a couple of weeks ago. We're about to have our second session next week. And we asked them, what do you care about? And we did a big brainstorming session. And these are some of the things that come up. And actually, some of the things you definitely start to see trends. So I think sustainability is a really big theme that young people are thinking about, particularly climate change. And, we know that's because it's out there in the news. But these are, inclusion for all is definitely something that we're hearing a lot from young people, and they come at that from different angles as well. So like gender equality is part of that, cultural inclusion is part of that, and there's also these other parts of pieces of that, that sort of part of inclusion for all, different abilities, etc. Of course, some things they're going to experience themselves more readily than others. So, they're less likely to experience homelessness than they are bullying or violence at some point as a young person. But they're also likely to experience climate change. And if you're here in Australia, we experience the bushfires and we breathe the air from the bushfires. So in many parts, and some schools have to evacuate. So, sometimes it's things that they're seeing and sometimes it's things that they're experiencing. And that's, unfortunately, sometimes things we want to take action on are problems that we're experiencing, like racism or, climate change, or, there was a young woman we worked with previously on the program who wanted to address domestic violence, for example, because it was something that she'd observed. So, sometimes it's these things that we do want to take action on. And young people are very aware of what's going on in the world as well. Like one of the schools last week, primary school, said child trafficking was one of the things that they knew and cared about. So there's definitely things out there that young people are reading, young people are seeing in the news, and are exposed to as well. So what are the barriers to young people trying to take action? Stefan, jump in on this as well if you've got some others. These are some of the things they shared with us last week. And, a lot of this is about the idea that young people say, oh, we're just kids. We don't have power. We don't have money. We're too busy with school. But also people don't listen to us and people don't act as our allies and give us agency. Do you want to add anything in there?
Yeah, I was just going to say this kind of harkens back to that mindset of being courageous. I'm looking at these first 3 bullet points, or 4 bullet points, and it's just like, yeah, it takes a lot of courage to just speak up, maybe have a few adults who aren't listening, but then being willing to speak up again and again until somebody does, because there are adults who don't think it's a silly endeavor. There are adults who are willing and able to support these types of student projects.
Mhm. And just to add one more thing, I think another thing is maybe just not knowing how, not knowing what to do in order to make their voices heard and speak about and act on these things that they care so much about.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So we've got a school joining us in about 10 minutes, so we're going to zip through the design thinking process. But these are just some of the projects that we did last year in Australia, and I know Emma Steph will share the US ones. We had sustainability, we had waste audits, we had homelessness, we had sort of a gardening community projects. We had students who learned to podcast through cultural inclusion, and in the US we had.
Yeah, in the U.S. we have a group that has been working on raising awareness for endangered animals, and we also have another group who recognized the need for a BIPOC group within their school who acted to create that.
Awesome. So let's talk about the design thinking stages. And we've got a couple of little case studies, little short videos that we're going to share as we go through. But yeah, stage 1, empathy.
Yeah, so the overarching theme for this is understanding, and empathy is a big part of that. And it's how we connect to things as humans. Really, I think about the story element. I think humans, we connect to stories, we connect to the people in those stories, we connect to the feelings and the needs, and we try to think of ways that we can connect with that further in helping solve a problem. So that's really key to all of this, is the empathy piece. In the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and push forward a little bit, if we can click on that. Yeah, so we have to think, why is it important for students to connect with the empathy part? And ultimately it comes down to, if you connect with that part, you connect with the whole project. You have to have this as the foundation to do anything. You have to care about it. That's really what it comes down to.
Absolutely. And we wanted to share a couple of examples. So last year we had a high school that did a mental health program, and this came from them saying, look, we feel like there's mental health issues in the school around stress and anxiety, particularly around exams, but we don't know for sure. So they did a survey, a Tell Them From Me survey, which is a New South Wales government survey you can do. It's anonymous. I can't say that word.
Anonymous.
Anonymous. Thank you. And they found that the benchmarks were much lower than what the standard ones were. So they were like, we care about our friends, we care about our classmates, we wanted to make a solution. And so they designed a whole solution, and we're happy to share those with you. We can pop those up on socials. I do also want to share with you a little video. This is St. Mark's Anglican Community School. They did homelessness, and this really started from a place of empathy. So let's watch just the first 1.5 minutes of that video, and I'm just going to make sure that that's sharing. Here we go. Yep, beautiful. And hopefully the sound is on, and I'll just press.
Oh, it paused though.
Yeah, that's strange. All right, and we'll stop there. I really just wanted to show you that part of the project where they really connected with empathy, which was they connected with people who were experiencing homelessness, and they invited an organization to bring in people who were homeless. So we'll keep going, but we can share that maybe in the chat as well, and talk about how another example of this, and I'll just make sure that you can see my screen. Is another school did, and we won't have time to watch their video. Yeah, just make sure you can share my share screen. Is Mernda Primary School, and Mernda Primary School did this fantastic, they're the podcasting ones, they did a fantastic project where they presented this idea and then they implemented it, where they said, we've got a huge variety. It was over 50 cultures in our school, but we only know about a few of them really, and we'd like a way to hear student voice. So they bought podcasting equipment, they learned how to use green screens, and now they have a YouTube channel where they interview a different student each week. So again, I'll pop that little link in the chat for you to watch a little bit later, but really honing down on your subject is that next stage of design thinking. Over to you, Steph.
All right. And then I can't see your screen yet.
Oh, yeah, I am sharing. I think it just needs to be brought up.
Well, that's all right. I can go ahead and start talking. So as soon as the slide comes up, we're going to see a little bit about the explore and the ideate stages of this design thinking process. And really what the focus on there is brainstorming, that divergent thinking that generates all of the ideas, all of the possibilities, all the possible ways to act. And then in the convergent stage of that, that's where we refine that thinking. So we take this large list of brainstorm ideas and action points that students have come up with, and we really hone in and focus on, okay, what of these things are we able to do? What do we think will make the most impact on the project and the things that we're trying to do? And then coming back to that idea earlier of flexibility, this is one of those areas where flexibility is very, very important because changes happen, pivots happen, and the capability to make sure that we are able to leave an idea behind, even if it's one that we care very much about, to pursue one that may work a bit better, is a really valuable lesson, even for us as adults to learn. That can sometimes be difficult. But yeah, and then here on the screen now you can see some of, an example of that brainstorming stage surrounding the topic of diversity and inclusion. And then
Awesome.
yeah.
So here's another a video, but I'm a little bit worried about time. So I think what I'll do is I'll pop this into the chat, and maybe do you mind popping that into the comments chat so that
yes, I popped it into private chat, and Mary Alice can pop it into the comments.
Amazing.
For us. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
So Amanda Tinson was one of the educators, and she talks a bit about this process as an educator of really helping to hone down all these, like, Steph, you were saying that we've got all these amazing ideas here, but of course then what happens is we end up with having to really hone our project down. So we're going to go live to the Spectrum students in a few minutes, but we'll just finish off our stages of design thinking, and I can see that they've just joined. How exciting. So here we have the sort of that second stage. We've decided on our topic, so this is really where we are building, and this is the exciting thing, right? Like, this is like, oh, what are we going to do and how are we going to do it, and all that cool kind of thinking and ideas and creativity and all that sort of stuff. So first of all, we always use a project plan at MEG to help guide and scaffold the students' thinking with feedback. And then community partnerships is a huge part of this. We always, as people who work in global citizenship education, focus on the global focus. And I know, Em, you'll talk about SDGs in a moment, and also this idea of a GLocal lens. So Steph and Em, can you maybe share some of the partnerships that your schools have set out? We do use a very strategic mapping thing. We don't just say, oh, connect to the community, good luck, goodbye. We actually ask them to sit down and map who they could be connecting to make them think a little bit broadly about those different groups.
Yeah, so I know with Spectrum, and they can probably speak to this more specifically, but they worked on local and global connections all over the place, from a local zoo nearby to artists and other folks all around the world. So that's a really impressive partnership that they did as well. With Rocky Hill, they actually reflected more within their school community. They already had a BIPOC group in the high school. And so this particular BIPOC affinity group that they started was specific to the middle school. So they saw how they could kind of grow that within their own community. But those are just a couple of the examples that we've run across so far.
Yeah, and that video we saw earlier, St. Mark's, they did an amazing community partnership. So they partnered with about 5 different organizations. They got their local MP to come in and talk about leadership because they were student leaders. They communicated with local church groups to help distribute some of that food if in need. They worked with a cafe that works with homeless people. They worked with a number of different organizations, and they were really strong in their partnerships. And this is because their educator actually was quite experienced at service learning. So she already had partnerships in her mind. But it's something very much that we think about at MEG. We want our students to be connecting to the real world.
Absolutely. And woven throughout these projects are that the sustainable development goals kind of as the anchor for that, especially SDG 17, which is partnerships for the globe goals. So we've already talked about some of those community partnerships. But as students go along, they realize, oh, I can actually connect to this one. Oh, and this one. Oh, and this one. And that's woven throughout the project as well.
Yeah, cool. And of course, SDG is partnership for the goals. So that's our partnerships, our community partnerships as well. And if we get time at the end, we might just show one of those short little videos. We also use what we call a GLocal lens. So think global, act local. But we, again, do this very strategically. So we use what I call the onion, and we really map to each of these layers. And we think about me, we, and us. So yeah, lots of kind of scaffolding and tools used to support the students through them. And then it's time to test it out. So I won't talk about this too much because we're going to hear from our young people about them testing out their products. But I guess the only thing I want to say, and Em and Steph, please also add on this from your perspectives in the US, is that this is the jumping off point. And I know for when I facilitate the projects here, the young people are often like really excited and they've got all these ideas and they're really excited. And then they get to this point and they're like, oh, we've actually got to do it. And, you know, there's like, who's going to do that? No, you. And then, of course, they take that first step and they're so empowered and they feel like, you know, they've really achieved something. Like with Express Your Mess, we talked about hitting walls, and they didn't raise enough money in their first fundraiser. So then they had to go out to the community and they emailed organizations like Bunnings, so that they could make donations. And then they actually set up a community partnership with this shop, with this business that had an ongoing relationship, but that never would have happened if they didn't hit that wall. So we're going to stop there. I know that we wanted to talk a little bit about, talk a little bit about root cause analysis, but maybe that will come up with Spectrum. So Steph and Em, over to you and the amazing Spectrum students.
Yeah, so we've got a quick video we'll try to show here. This is kind of just like a very nicely done overview of Spectrum's project as a whole. So through the process, what they care about, why they care about it, and all of the really wonderful and powerful things that they're doing to raise awareness. So yeah. Oh, I'm not sure that it's...
There it is.
Oh, there we go. Awesome. Thank you so much for playing that, Lottie. Let's see, are our Spectrum students, can we see them?
I think they'll be coming in. And welcome to Frank and to Dr. Matthew Joseph. Dr. Matthew Joseph, it was actually Brett that connected us all today. So I know he's a good friend of yours. Hi.
Hello,
Hi,
everybody. Oh, we are so excited to have you here. We've been saying all these really wonderful things about you, and now you get to
Spectrum.
share from your own perspectives. Awesome. Yeah. So we've got a few questions that we wanted to ask, and we would love to hear from students at Spectrum from your perspective. So the first question that I want to ask is, how did you choose the topic empathy for endangered animals? Why is that topic important to you? And if you want, you can walk. It might be best to walk right up to the computer and make sure you unmute and yeah, come up nice and close so we can hear you.
You can see that fantastic change maker face.
Mm-hmm.
We can't hear you right
Can't
now.
hear. Oh.
It's okay. We'll work through it. That's all right. Might
Yeah,
be
the
on mute.
chat is always an option as well if we need it.
For sure.
What I was so impressed by with their project is that they have come up with so many different solutions and so many different solutions on different levels as well. So they've got like local partnerships, but they're also writing to people in places all over the world, which, are the sort of the gatekeepers. It says they're on mute. It's got a little mute button. That's right. They're working through that.
That's okay.
Hello.
There we go.
Hey, say your name and say why, how did we come up with our idea?
Hello, my name's Kevin. And, well, how we came up with this is, well, I don't know exactly how, because I want to never, because I'm a pretty new student, but the premise is because animals are endangered, and we don't want that because someday, because of that, we might be endangered.
Okay, facts clear. How did we come up with the project? What did we do?
We brainstormed through a bunch of ideas of a bunch of things that we wanted to do, and we kind of landed on
Okay. Can you hear okay? Are we loud enough?
We could hear pretty well. We were talking, you were sharing that you brainstormed a lot of ideas and kind of talked through them and worked together to choose this topic.
You remember when we said, what is something we all care about? Animals. And both were talking about the environment, right? And habitat. Yeah. I don't want these to be my ideas. So we all kind of agree, right? Yeah. It's this huge this conversation. What do we all care about? So we found something we all cared about. Do anybody not care about animals? You guys are all here. What do you want to say, Aiden? Come on up. Do you know what you're going to say?
I have 3 cats and a dog.
Yeah, we did talk a lot about the pets that we have in our homes, the pets that are or the animals that are in our local communities and neighborhoods and things like that. Go ahead and share if you'd like.
This is Ada.
The animals are going extinct for a loss of habitat and cultures.
And what about your animal? What animal did you decide to care about?
The African wild dog.
What do you know about the African wild dog?
It's better and greater of a lion.
Yeah, its hunting is really good. Aiden's very much, each of the kids is advocating for one animal. And they have these amazing posters like that. Hey, Luna, do you want me to just send them up to say what they have to say? Or do you want to ask questions?
We can I can ask a question, and then if it leads to some other thoughts, that's absolutely wonderful. But actually, my next question is kind of related to what we were just talking about, but we're wondering a little bit about how you all are working to reach people both locally and globally. So how are you taking what you've learned and sharing that with people close by and also people in other parts of the world?
Hi, my name is Asher. One of the things we're doing is I'm doing social media posts, so we can really get our stuff out there.
Can I ask, why did you choose to do social media posts, Asha?
I thought it would be cool and fun. I thought it would be very helpful because like we need someone who can like use the internet and get stuff like out online so people can find out what we've been doing.
So what social media have you been using mostly?
I've been using a lot of Facebook so far.
He's been using our school Facebook page. He's our social manager. We also have a website manager, and our website launched on Friday. Do you want to talk about your website, Pip? Or do you want to talk about me?
Website launch.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. It's their school. It's just our spectrumschool.org/EFEA. It's amazing. It's got their posters and their stuffy campaign.
That is absolutely amazing. We're gonna definitely have to share that out and make sure that it can reach as many people as possible.
Luna, do you want to talk a little bit about how you reached out to people in Sweden?
Yes.
Come on over.
Wow, Sweden.
You talk whatever you want to say, but make sure you say it. It's exciting that you can you be seen?
I will sit on the table.
Okay.
So
This is Luna.
I contacted some organization for Arctic foxes in Sweden. And Arctic foxes are endangered because of habitat loss, pollution, and hunting.
And did they answer back?
Yeah.
Yeah, they answered back. She's been emailing Sweden.
Oh my goodness.
So exciting.
Yeah,
so
that is.
Stuff and information. We're proud of her.
Can I ask her a question?
Sure.
How did you find the organization in Sweden? I mean, it's not just down the road. It's on the other side of the world.
So we Googled Arctic fox organizations, and we found that one, and that was my favorite one. So
Amazing digital citizenship work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for sharing. Ooh, and it looks like we've got the website shared in the chat as well. So if you're curious to check out the work that these students have been doing, please by all means take some time to visit the site.
Their posters are all the way done. We've got all the posters finished now, but they've not been updated yet on the website. But there's 12 posters. And what's really cool is that each of them has picked an organization on their posters to sponsor. We're sending people to that organization. Brianna, do you want to come up and talk about the Stuffy campaign and what we're doing with that? What a digital Stuffy is.
a digital stuffy is when we have it drawn on a paper and sent out.
We had the artist in Argentina help us with it, right?
Yeah.
And what are we doing? Go ahead and talk. You're so comfortable talking. Tell them everything about the Stuffy campaign.
We are, I'm doing the Stuffy campaign, so I will have to check our email every day. And then if there is anybody who donated, we will give them a Stuffy and a thank you certificate.
Very cool. And did you say that the artist that you're working with is in Argentina? Did I hear that right?
Correct. Yes.
Sweden, Argentina.
You're on mute.
I'm so sorry I had to just jump on because I heard digital stuffy. And do you mean like a stuffed animal?
Well, what they've done is they've drawn these animals, and then they've had this artist in Argentina render their drawings as a graphic for their posters. And if somebody uses their poster to donate to that company, that organization that tells us, they will get a certificate with that drawing, with that beautiful stuffy. But we're also collecting real stuffies, like World Wildlife Fund. And so for local people, they'll have a chance to get real stuffies and a certificate. And we're posting all the donors on our website, so everybody's getting acknowledged.
Well, I just wanted to let your class know that this classroom elephant, her name is Ellie, and she's from Scotland, and she's a traveling stuffy. And it's a classroom that I'd love to connect you with as a direct result of this session, because Ellie gets to travel places and helps the students learn about the world with the world. So I wanted you to know, once I heard a stuffy, I just had to come back from backstage to introduce Ellie to you. Hi.
Oh, what an amazing connection. I'm
So
glad
I'll
you
go-
jumped in for that.
I'll go in the back again, but I couldn't miss that moment to introduce Ellie. So thank you for sharing about your digital stuffies.
Julia, you want to say something? Is your hand up? Come on up, honey. This is Julia. She's been kind of our poster campaign manager.
Koalas are more related to kangaroos than bears.
Oh, fascinating.
That's perfect since we've got our Australian teammate joining us, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, she's very
New Zealand.
Well, New Zealand, but you're in Australia, so you get the Australian tag right now.
It's true, but I just
Yeah.
have to, remind everyone.
I know.
All right, well, I have just a couple more questions.
Good. Yay.
Oh, do we have someone? Yeah, okay. I'm going to go ahead and ask one more question, and then I think we can open it up to a Q&A if anyone listening or watching in has questions for us or for our students as well. So final question, do you all have any advice that you could share to future young change makers who are inspired by the work you're doing and who want to do something similar?
If anybody wants to start something like this, you should start off by finding something that you really like, and then ask for help from other people, and then once it grows so much that it could become now a world thing, and it could change many different things.
One of you had some ideas this morning about what advice you give people. Arnav, do you want to say something? Come on up. Leah, do you want to say anything? Miss Sea Turtle Queen? Looks like Peregrine.
So my name is Arnav. My animal is the black spider monkey. They've been hunted and feeded. There are only 250 left, and people even destroy their homes for houses.
Oh, Arnav had to get his 2 cents in. Good job, Arnav. What advice would you have for someone trying to do a project? Come on up, Peregrine. And kind of go after Peregrine if you have something to say.
Okay, so decide what animal you're gonna choose. Just think of an animal that you really like, and then look up endangered that
Look at the camera.
on whatever search segment that you use. Because that's really
so
good
you
for finding
you're
it.
saying do internet research about your topic, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Kenneth, you want one more thing?
Okay.
Kenneth is the one writing the Canadian legislature.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the young change maker one. What I would like to say is, never give up and follow your dreams.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah, that is some really great advice.
All right.
All right. Do we have any others who wanted to share? If not, we can open it up to questions.
Yeah, I'd love to know if we have any questions in the audience.
Yeah, pop a question in the chat. If you have a question, it could be for the Spectrum students, it could be for us, it could be about design thinking. One of the things that I love that Spectrum's done is that they've taken something everyone cares about in animals, but then they've done the personalised approach where they've got their individual animal, and this is what's really unique about their program. Other schools do it a bit differently. They choose something that's a sort of one topic, and they all address, like, for example, how can we green our school? And so they might divide and conquer on little mini projects, or they might just choose one solution and all work together. on that. We do have a question.
Yeah. So question coming in from Frank Moody. Thank you, Frank, for chiming in. This question is for Spectrum. Frank is wondering, how do you choose the particular managers of the different aspects of your project? So how did you choose your website manager, your social media manager, your poster manager, and things like that?
We we were talking about like what we wanted our jobs to be, and we just decided who would do them, and
they've gotten hooked up with mentors on their various jobs. It's like graphic design jobs, the website work,
we've been like thinking of different jobs of things we might need, like for instance, my social media job.
He's had one of our staff members help you a lot, right?
Yeah.
Paxton has been our researcher, and he's had help with Anna and Leah. And he didn't want to do a lot of writing, but he wanted to find information out. He's like the main research guy with the whole thing. Second grade, technically, although we don't do grades here. But it's pretty impressive that you have this young man in charge of this huge project. He's kept his own Google Doc. You want to talk about that at all, Pax, or have I talked too much for you? No, you're okay?
I think that's absolutely brilliant. I think acknowledging that each of you has your own interests and passions, and finding another way through this project to strengthen that learning in those aspects, I think is really amazing. We have a couple more questions. Let's see here. So, what advice would you give to teachers and their students around the world to take good care of animals?
Did you have a question? What advice would you give to teachers and students around the world to take good care of animals? No. Okay, Peregrine and Asher, you guys can both come up and take turns saying your stuff. Think of teachers and other kids about animals.
Do not shoot the animal.
What? Much more of business. Yeah.
And if you want to have like, say you have a pet, you need to keep up on feeding and watering, and I have 2 hermit crabs. We need to clean out their cage.
No. So you should be responsible.
Yes, you need to like feed your pets or animals that you care about, like all the time. You have to feed them, you have to give them water, you have to, like dogs, you have to groom them. You don't really have to groom cats, they groom themselves.
So caring about animals means caring with the animals in front of you. How about animals around? Like, what would you tell people? What are you writing your congressman about? What are we telling them? You want stronger laws against what 3 things?
Poaching animals.
Poaching. What else? Pollution and what else?
Trash in the sea.
Trash. And what else?
Loss of habitat.
Habitat. Right. We're trying to get stronger laws for habitat protection, stronger laws against poaching, and stronger laws against pollution. You guys, that's your stuff. Those are your ideas. That's what you've been writing about, right? I think it's hard to sometimes realize how those connections happen, right?
Sure.
Yeah, amazing. Let's see, and it looks like we've got one final question here. It says, does the class know about the children's author? I'm going to try to read this name, Jerry Pallotta, I think it might be. I think you could help him with research. Interesting. So that might be someone to look into.
We will tomorrow if you send me the title. Will we get a copy of this?
Yeah, I'm going to send it to you, Mary Beth, right now.
Thank you.
Awesome.
We have a big event at 5 o'clock that we've been getting ready for on top of this one.
Yeah, busy young people.
Yeah.
Well, I think we might need to wrap it up there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Spectrum. We're so proud of you.
Say thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And we
Yeah,
can't wait to see what you do with your project next.
Thank you so much. And about Jerry Pilata, if you would like an author's visit to your classroom, he writes specifically nonfiction about animals. I know he will gladly join your classroom, but I feel like your classroom actually could be doing research for him.
cool.
Wow.
That'd be awesome. I would love that.
And thank you for everybody that has joined us live. I'm sorry we had in the beginning, we didn't realize Frank Moody. Thank you for letting us know that the comments were off, because I was like, I can see people are, why isn't anybody leaving comments? So we were busy in the background trying to fix that. And I'm glad that we got that taken care of by the end. But you didn't get a chance to meet my colleague, Eugenia, at the beginning from Mexico, but just so that the students know, someone's joining from Mexico as well.
Cool. We are international. Isn't that great? All right. Thanks. So we're going to sign off now.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Spectrum.
much.
Wonderful. And then Lottie and team, I want to make sure that we get to recognize that Meg Languages, you know, you were so gracious to offer anybody that had registered to join us this month that they could take this course. They had access to this course. So I'm going to let you take that away.
Thank you so much. And I'm just going to share my screen again. So one of the things that, we wanted just to share, it's free. You can share it with your colleagues as well. I'll just make sure that I've got that up, is that we've got a free course which anyone's welcome to access at any time. So you just need to shoot me an email, and my email is there, lottie@meglanguages.com. You can check out the course. If you grab your phone and zip that QR code, you can have a look at it and see if that's the right thing for you or for any of your colleagues wherever you are in the world. I know we have people all over the world doing our courses. So we had somebody register a couple of days ago from India. So it's cool that, this is the thing that digital technologies open up for us. We're going to wrap up now because we're at the top of the hour. But I just wanted to throw back to Steph and Em and just say, I know that we zapped through really fast this idea of design thinking. Is there anything you want to add about any of those stages or any final thoughts before I just close up the session?
I do not. Yeah, I think we wrapped it up quite well.
Yeah, cool. Em?
I'm good on my
You're
end. Yeah,
good.
Spectrum's the perfect example of the testing and implementing stage. So they kind of did our final part of the presentation. So
that really,
so
I have
good.
to say, was the best part. That was really, I mean, I loved you and your team, but I don't know, for everybody that's joining live, I know Frank has joined us all month long. I would go to a student session every day of the week, twice on Sundays. So that was really extra special. So we're just putting into the comments all your emails. So for Lottie, for Emily, and then we've got for Stephanie as well.
Yeah, awesome. So reach out to us. We use design thinking as that structure for student action projects, and that's in that free course that you can access. But we're happy to share any resources with you. And I just wanted to really take a moment at the end of today to acknowledge Steve Sostak, who was an incredible educator who worked in this space and a huge champion of student voice, and has done some really, really groundbreaking work. And so this whole month has been dedicated to Steve, and I personally learned so much from Steve and the Inspired Citizens team, and a lot of what we're doing with our action projects at Meg Languages was inspired by Steve and his vision. So I just really want to hand on heart just say what an incredible educator, and I know that you've also worked with him, Dr. Mary Alice and Eugenia.
That you have had a direct connection. So this really is special to make that connection back, because all we've wanted is not only just to celebrate students in classrooms and school communities who use technology for good. We've wanted to not just talk about it, but put it into action. And what you were doing is that actionable piece. You showed it, you demonstrated, you inspired us, you're empowering us to want to, pick up the mantle and charge. And that's exactly what Steve, and I think about that idea. We talk about leading by hand, heart, and mind. And I think Inspire Citizens, I think it's like hand, heart, and I think it's the same
Head and
idea.
Head,
action.
heart, and hands.
Yeah, action, something like that.
Yes, they have 3 H's. We use head, heart, and hand. Head, heart, and mind.
They're empathy to impact is their model.
Yes,
so
empathy
starting with
to impact.
empathy, and then it's impact, which is essentially the design thinking process as well. But I also want to thank Dr. Mary Alice and Kenya and the DIGCIT for allowing us to come and allowing our Spectrum students to share. Unfortunately, we didn't get to all the student videos, but we have popped those in the chat, and we're always happy to share student work. We always pop it up on socials as well. So yeah, reach out for any help or ideas or connections or anything. Anything I've forgotten before we wrap up?
No, I think you covered it. Let us know how we can help.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that's us. Thanks, everyone. Ka kite anō. Over to you, Dr. Mary Alice, to finish us off.
Wonderful. And I just want to say that I'm going to use one of my favorite movie analogies from Casablanca. And at the very end of that movie, it's like, Louis, this is the beginning of a wonderful friendship. And I really, Henny and I look forward to, this is the first time that we've been able to celebrate you and to collaborate. But we're looking forward to many more opportunities going forward. So thank you all for your time, sharing your passions and your expertise with us.
Thank you. I hope we can share our 40 Australian schools work maybe sometime in the future that are just in the middle of designing.
Sure.
Absolutely.
We're gonna keep showcasing people and amazing students and projects around the world. So I think that it's gonna be very soon.
Cool.
Yes, in fact, all the feedback we've received is, can this continue? So our team is behind the scenes saying, okay, can we do that spotlight like once a month? And actually the idea about Australia was, here, the US schools will go on summer vacation, but Australia, you'll still be like, this is something that we easily can do. And I think what's made this month so special is instead of trying to do that one day event, doing it all month long, but meeting people at their time zone I feel like, and their language has been what's really made this, global experience very human. So, yes. So wonderful. So thank you everybody who has joined us, and we're looking forward. Tomorrow is our last day. I cannot believe it. It is our last day. So Evo, Hannah, in the UK is going to be DIGCIT SDGs, is designed for SDGs. And then our closing keynote is actually a classroom in Ohio. And I love it. Namia Joshi was our opening keynote, or student keynote. And I love that we have a classroom closing keynote. So, and that I cannot believe it, will wrap up an incredible month of just celebrating really the most positive, what should be our headlines, everywhere, the positive ways that our young people are using technology for good. So wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.